The world of Yakuza or Like a Dragon has a lot of interesting criminal organizations. You have the Jingun Mafia, the Sayo Triad, the Snake Flower Triad, the Omi Alliance, the Yomei Alliance, and so on and so forth. But the first one that'll most likely come to anyone's mind is the Tojo clan. It's the main faction in most of the games, and it's the one we're most familiar with. Over the years, we've gotten to know more and more about its structure, its influence, its members, its leaders, and some of the coolest people to come out of it, like our boy, Kiryu Kazuma. But we don't really want to talk about Kiryu much in today's session. We want to talk about the best group that was ever created under the Tojo clan. No, it's not the Uematsu family. Sorry to the two Uematsu fans out there. We are talking about the Saejima family. And when I say this is the best group that was created under the Tojo clan, I really mean, what in the the Saejima family is the most impressive Tojo family by far because we know next to nothing about it. Despite them initially giving the impression that you were going to see more of it when that couldn't be farther from the truth. Like bro, you literally don't see a single Saejima family member. Pulling that off in the narrative is honestly kind of impressive, but also funny. These guys are somehow more secretive than the Nikyo Consortium, which is saying something because those guys are supposed to be the underground kind of guys. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's slow down a bit and go back to where things all started. Yakuza 4. I'm about to say something that honestly feels like it could be applied to 70% of Yakuza games nowadays, but at this point of time, Yakuza 4 feels like it's among the more divisive titles, at least gameplay-wise. With the story, I think you'll find many more people agreeing that it's at least not one of the best. And no, it's not just because of the dreaded Saejima family. There's a lot to Yakuza 4's story that has people feeling mixed. But if we were to go through all of that here, this would probably be a very long video. So let's just move on to Saejima. Saejima is the second character you play as in this game, and his story starts off fairly strong. He's a guy who you come to find out used to know Majima, so that by itself would probably already make most players invested. Then they also show Yasuko in the same room. The game at this point already showed her prior to this in Akiyama's part, so this is another thing that gets you sort of invested. Majima and Saejima plan to pull off this hit on a rival family in order to basically rise up in the ranks. But what ends up happening is a disaster. Majima doesn't show up for the assassination, and Saejima decides to go through with it alone in one of the hardest scenes in the franchise. And then he gets arrested and sentenced to death. But 25 years later, he meets a guy we've seen in Yakuza 3 called Hamazaki, and the two plan a jailbreak. You wouldn't know this now if this is your first time playing Yakuza 4, but this is also the debut of one of the greatest concepts and memes in the franchise, period. And that's the one true pairing of Saejima and prison. I said this before and I'll say it again. If the inevitable Saejima Gaiden doesn't involve prison in any way, shape, or form, I don't want it. Please give me another prison part for Saejima that lasts longer than Yakuza 5's. Give me a game where you spend the whole story in prison. As a matter of fact, sorry about that. It's hard not to get carried away when you're speaking about peak. Anyway, Saejima and Hamazaki escape. Saejima drops to the sea and totally not conveniently lands at Kiryu's orphanage. We get a scene that traumatized every Yakuza fan, and then with the help of Kiryu, Saejima sets off for Kamurocho. A lot of things happen here, and by a lot of things, I mean you spend like 3 hours walking in circles dodging cops. Saejima gameplay, baby. But the gist of what happens here is Saejima wants to find Majima to confront him about why he never showed up for the hit. He ends up actually meeting him, but it takes a fight to get Majima to spill the beans. From there, you move on to the remaining characters, but basically, once you stop this grand plan devised by multiple people and get past the credits, you're met with the very final cutscene that has grand implications for the next game or games. Or does it? The cutscene opens at the Tojo clan, and a limo drives in. From within the vehicle, Saejima emerges with a patriarch outfit on. So, already you know that he's going back to the Tojo clan. But then there's this reveal of an inauguration ceremony to officially cement the Saejima family as a subsidiary. And just to repeat this point, this is literally the last scene of the game. So any normal person would assume this might be a huge deal. Or, you know what? Maybe you're used to some other movies or games that don't do anything with their endings, leading into the sequel. But anyway, so for someone going through the series, knowing that there is a Yakuza 5, they'll probably expect that this family will play something of a role in the sequel and perhaps in the games beyond. Like, you know, I'm not saying this newfound family has to have a central role going forward, but surely a thing or two here and there. Nah. It might have gotten mentioned in Yakuza 5, but only like once or twice, which is just like, what was the point of the end of Yakuza 4 then? In its very minor defense, I can think of just one thing but it really doesn't amount to much in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that meant anything at all from Yakuza 4's ending is that Saejima's been pardoned and he's been allowed back into the clan as a functioning member. The Saejima family itself doesn't get a single second to shine or even try to shine. We don't even know a single piece of information about this family. Not a single notable or even non-notable member. No contributions whatsoever. It just existed because I guess somebody felt like throwing that in for a happy ending. The question here is there anything they could do with this plot point at this point? Is there even a point? That's a lot of points, I know, but bear with me. Close your eyes for a second and just try to think with me. What could they have done with the Saejima family? Could it have genuinely set up for a great story going forward? To be honest, I don't know. The thing with Yakuza is that whatever writing they're working with, we know they're capable of giving us some of the most hype moments in the entirety of gaming. But it's just a matter of how much sense does it make, or does it really need to happen? These questions can affect how much you come to love some story moments, or it could be the opposite where you don't care as much as long as they have good soundtrack and good gameplay. It would be pretty funny if this video ages semi-horribly and the upcoming Majima Gaiden actually does something with the Saejima family. But don't quote me on that. One of my guesses as to why they didn't do much with the Saejima family is just so that we can still play as him in Yakuza 5 and not have his underlings do most of the work for him. But I still don't see why this would stop them from at least showing any kind of interaction between him and any of his followers. You might be thinking, well, he went back to jail, so maybe the Tojo saw this as some kind of disgrace and he lost any and all following. But that doesn't make any sense. Majima in Yakuza 4 goes to jail, albeit very briefly, but you still see him with his family in Yakuza 5. And if there's one thing we know about Majima, it's that he has some unfortunate but very loyal followers that would follow him to the ends of the earth even beyond just the clan. Having another Nishida-like figure for Saejima could definitely work, but just so it wouldn't feel like it's just Nishida 2.0, they could have given him a subordinate that is the silent and tough but loyal kind of guy. Granted, if not done well, that kind of character could be boring. But I don't know, there's a lot of ideas that could have worked here. In fact, I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about all of this. There's a lot of different aspects to discuss here. Like I said, an example question is, how could they have pursued the involvement of the Saejima family from Yakuza 5 going forward? What kind of subordinates would have felt great to have in his family? Go crazy in the comments and let's all discuss. Assuming we get a Saejima Gaiden at this point, I think this is one thing that they could utilize for the main story, or even for a major side story at the bare minimum. But just to sort of reiterate, I'm not saying, yo, we absolutely need the return of the Saejima family, this could be the best thing ever guys, trust me. But I'm just saying that for a throwaway plot point, they could still do something with it even all these years later. I think they can find a way to make it work. That's gonna be it for this video, you guys. It's been a minute since I did the lore video, and I know this is a very short one, but I hope you enjoyed watching this, and hopefully I gave some food for thought if you wanted something to think about with the Yakuza games. I hope to continue making more and more lore-related videos, and I hope you continue to watch them as well. Thank you so much for watching this video and giving the channel the time of your day. It really does mean the world to me. And as usual, I'll try to keep making more and more. Now you guys take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. I'll see you guys very soon, hopefully. Bye-bye now.